Math 14, project number 1 instructions, data analysis comparison report. Collecting, analyzing, and comparing two quantitative data sets. First thing, number 1, you're going to decide on a question about quantitative data that compares two populations or groups. For example, suppose we want to find out whether part-time CMC students or full-time CMC students work more. Notice I would need 2 bits of information. If the student is a full or part-time student, and how many hours per week they work. You will then be analyzing the quantitative variable hours of work for each of the two groups. Be specific about the population and make the question address a quantitative variable. Number 2, devise a method for taking a sample. The sample does not have to be large or randomly selected, but those are better. Part of your report will be to describe your sampling method and how well it applies to the population. For example, you may use a voluntary response survey, but in the report you will say that the sample data will not apply very well to the population. Also talk about the different kinds of bias if you write questions for people to answer. Make sure to avoid question bias. Number 3, collect your data. You should have 2 quantitative data sets, each having at least 20 values. Number 4, you're going to write a paragraph describing the method used to collect the data and if the data represents the population you are after. Also describe the various types of bias that could be present. Number 5, you're going to use Statcrunch to analyze your data sets. Please review the Statcrunch videos on how to create, copy, and paste the data sets, dot plots, box plots, and histograms. Include sample statistics for both data sets, dot plots, box plots, and histograms for both data sets. There should be a total of 7 graphs. Also, copy and paste the summary statistics from the computer program. There should be a minimum, maximum, mean, standard deviation, mode, range, median, quartile 1, quartile 3, and interquartile range. Analyze all the sample statistics. Describe the shape, outliers, center, and spread for each data set. Now compare the averages and typical values for the two groups. Which group had the higher average? Which group had more spread? Do you think the difference between the averages was significant and why? Number 6, you're going to create slides using PowerPoint and submit your assignment through Canvas. So here is the grading rubric for project number 1 with 100 points total. Okay, so you should have each of these items in your project. The first item should be the introduction paragraph. Why was this data important or interesting to you? Worth 5 points. Number 2, your data paragraph. Discuss how you collected the data and how well it applies to the population and if there were any sources of bias present. That's 5 points. Number 3, you're going to create a plot for each data set, and then you're going to describe the 2 dot plots worth a total of 10 points. Number 4, you're going to create a histogram for each data set. What is the true shape for each of the 2 data sets? And you must have appropriate number of bins, which is 10 points. Number 5, you're going to create a side-by-side box plot or 2 separate box plots. Analyze the 2 box plots. Are there any outliers in the data set? Are there mistakes? Should we leave them in the data set or take the outliers out? Again, this is what you should be describing in your paragraph. So you should have a paragraph for the comparison for the dot plots, a paragraph for the comparison of the histograms, and a paragraph describing the side-by-side box plots. Number 6, you should add sample statistics and what the statistic tells us about the data sets. You should have a minimum and maximum value for both data sets. Total frequency, how many numbers are in each of the 2 data sets. Okay, they do not have to be the same. C, you want to have the mean for each of the 2 data sets, the median for each of the 2 data sets, the mode and the range, and the standard deviation. quartile 1, quartile 3, and the interquartile range. So, as stated at the beginning, you should tell what the statistic tells us about the data sets. So what is the mean telling us? What is the median telling us? What is the mode telling us? Now, you'll be able to get this information quickly from Statcrunch, but you want to be able to describe each item. Number 7, what is the average value for each data set? Compare the average values for both groups. Which group had a higher average? Is there a significant difference between the averages? And then number 8, which is your conclusion paragraph, you want to compare the two groups. What did the data show about the two populations, and why was your topic important or interesting? So in the conclusion, you're basically answering the beginning, which is your introduction.